Hello everyone. Today is the ninth day of Leetcode 75 challenge. Let's begin with the ninth question. Question number 443, string compression. And the level of the problem is medium. I will request you to read the question beforehand as I will deep dive into the PPT and explain it in simpler way. Now let's understand the problem in easiest way possible. So you are given an array of characters, char. So this is the name of the array given to us, fine, which contains characters. Now the array consists of lower case letters and some characters may repeat consecutively. Okay, so it may contains characters A and it also repeat consecutively like this, not like A comma B. Sorry, uh, not like A comma B then A, right? Okay, it's not like this. The task is to compress the array using a specific rule. And what is the rule given? If a character appears once, store it as is. As is. So if A appears only one time in complete array, we will store it as it is. If the character appears multiple times, store the characters followed by its count. So if we take example, if we have B, for example, if in a given array, if we have B 5 times consecutively, then then we will store the character followed by its count. Okay. The modified array should be stored in char itself. This means that char is a given array, right? So we have to modify this array itself. We do not have to create a new array and store the values there and return it. So the given input array has to be modified itself. Now if handling counts is greater than 9, okay? If a character appears more than 9 times, the counts would be split into separate digits. Now, for example, if we have C, and if we have C occurs 11 times in the given array. So we cannot write 11 directly like this. What we have to do is that we have to split 11 into two values, 1, comma 1, this way. So then we have to store it in the cats array. Now in the question itself, it is said that algorithm must use only constant extra space. You cannot use additional arrays or data structures. All modification must be done directly in the given chars only. So we cannot use any extra space. So O of 1 should be the space complexity, and all the modification must be done directly into the given chars array, which means that we cannot use the any other data structures or array because as it is said here, so really modifying the chars given input only. Okay. Now return the length of new compressed array. Okay, fine. We have to return the length of the chars only at the end. Now what are the constraints of the problem? The characters, the char length could be from 1 to 2000 and characters of I is a lowercase English letter, uppercase English letter, digit or symbol. Okay, fine. Now let's move to the next slide. Let's understand the input output of the problem. We're given characters array here. So it is B, B, C, C, C. So as our question suggests that the characters will be consecutive, right? So how many times we have A? We have it two times. So we will store two here. Okay. How many times we have B consecutively? Two times. We will store B, then we will store the count of the B. Fine. We have C three times consecutively, so we will store C and 3 at the end, and we will return this. And length will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the return 6. First 6 characters of the input array should be this. So we have modified the char array itself. Now here A, right? We're returning 1. Why? Because it is mentioned in the question that if it only contains one character, the count of the character is only 1. So just return the character itself. That's all. Now let's move to the next slide. To understand what problem is asking, we should build up an intuition to the problem. So imagine you are a barista taking orders. Okay. A barista always has a notepad with him or her. Fine. We're working at a busy cafe and the customers are placing drinks orders one by one. Your job is to write down our orders efficiently to save space on the order slip. Okay. So this is the order slip. Now let's assume the coffee one, right? A person ordered. Let me make it a bit bigger. Okay. Let this be the slip the person has, right? C1, coffee 1, and coffee 2, and coffee 3. Let's take this way. Coffee 4. Okay, fine. So in the cafe, the person goes to the customer 1 and takes the order of coffee one time. Fine. Then again, one person with the same table asks for the same coffee. So instead of writing the same coffee separately, what he does, he removes one from here and makes it two. Fine. Okay. He then moves to the next table and asks for the order. There he didn't got the order of coffee one, he got the order of coffee two. So he will just edit one here, right? Now he went to the third chair or third table and he asked for the order. He got order as coffee three, so he will add it in this list as one order and coffee one as the another order, right? So it will become three. And at the end, he went to the last table. They order coffee one and they ordered it four times. Okay, right? So this is how he takes the order. So how he takes the order? New drink, we will write it down as is. Same drink again, right? Instead of writing it multiple times, write a drink name followed by the quantity. Okay. Now orders 10 plus drinks. Split the number into two individual digits. Let's if he gets another order of coffee 5 and they asked it to be 10 coffees. So he will just write it 10 like this. From here we are understanding that the person is using slip and trying to save pages by writing the same amount for the coffee in the place itself and updating it again and again, right? Rather than using new places for writing the name same amount of coffee there. Okay. So this is how he's trying to save space, and this is only the intuition or the logic we have to understand while solving this question, because your array is the number of coffees ordered and output is the efficient list of the barista cafe who is taking the order. Now let's move to the next slide. Now since we got the intuition of the problem, let's look into the approach how we're going to solve it. Okay, so first and the foremost basic thing is what? We're given an array. So we will require to store the length of the array in n variable. Okay, fine. And right, this is this. Now we have to start it from the first index and go up to the last index. That is also fine, right? And we have to keep count of the variable. Now count will always be 1 because at least there will be one character in the array given. So count will be 1. And we will keep I equals to 1. Reason we will be using I as a loop in a while loop for iterating. So these are the basic things required for us. Now here you can see that I have written here start by taking first character of chars and store it in array which will hold the compressed string. Now here array is a variable of type string. Okay, it is a type string. Now we are asked that we are not allowed to take another data structures and update it and use it, right? We are just asked to modify the given array itself. So what we cannot do? We cannot use set, we cannot use map and store the count of each and every characters in there, which could be the efficient solution. We can use that also, but it will take O and space, right? That's the thing. So what we can do? We know that we could take the count of the characters, right? That's an easy thing. We can take the count, and also those characters will be consecutively placed as said, right? They're consecutively placed. So from there, we could try to understand that if A, and B, C is there. If we have a common logic, how we can check the count of this number of characters of A, right? We will have one pointer here. Okay, we will store the characters. Okay, we have A here. Okay, we know that A is present here. Now we move from here to here in the next second index. Now we will always check whether the previous character was the same as the current character. If yes, we will just increase the count, right? Similarly, we will come to the third character and check whether the previous character was the same or not, and we will increase the count again. So this way, we could take out the count of each characters, right? Now, why we are using string? This is the main thing, right? This is the main, you know, we could say solution or main variable which we are using to solve the solution, right? This is the main concept why we are using string. Now, when we are counting the variable characters count, we know that we are in A right now, right? And the count is 3. In string, we will place A, right? And 3. Okay. Then we have B and we have the count of B as 3. We'll just place B here and 3 again. And we have C and count is only 1, so we'll just place C here. And again, if we have D with count of 12, we will place here, right? We keep on storing it on the string. So this way, we will get string compressed string or the compressed list in the form of string. Fine. And at the end, we could just convert it to one back to the array and return it. Now, one more question comes up that we have to update the given array itself, right? So we will just clear that array, make it empty, and use these values and store it in that character array and return it. So here we are not using any extra space, nor we are using any extra data structures or list to store the answer. Okay. Now how we will achieve this? Let's understand that by going step by step. I hope you understand why we are using string in this case. So let's go and see the step 2. Iterate through the array. Okay. While I is less than n to process all characters. Okay. If the characters of I is equals to characters I minus 1. Now, here keep in mind that in array variable we have already stored the first characters, that will be A. Okay, because taking the first character of chars and store it in array which will hold a compressed string. So somewhere we have to start, right? And if you are starting from I equals to 1, we don't know what was I equals to 0. And if you're starting from I equals to 0, then we cannot fulfill the condition of I minus 1 because it will throw a garbage error. That's why we are storing an array string variable array A. Okay. Then we have this condition if characters of I, let it be A again in the string in the array. Let it be B, then C and T. Let it be. Okay. Now it is also A, right? Then we increment the count of the repeating characters. Fine. And we'll store it. We will just increment count. Otherwise, if this condition false, get falsified, if the character is different. Only if count is greater than 1, we will append a count to the array. As in the question it is mentioned, if a character appears only one time in the string, we don't have to add one count one along with it. We will just add the character itself. That's all, right? And before appending to it, we will convert it to a string because we are just counting in integer format, right? That's right. We will reset the count to one for the new character and append the new character to the array. Okay, and move I forward to every step. So what I am trying to do here is that this is A, this is the array, let it be the array. We have stored array itself, right? And again we got this array A, we incremented the count. Okay, now the condition falsifies in this condition, right? And B, right? So we will just store 2 here if count is greater than 1, which is append count to array, which I have done already, and convert it to a string. After converting only, we will just store it in the array or append it to the string of array, right? We will reset the count to 1 again because now we have got the first new character. So we will start again with 1, right? And append the new character to the array. Now we have done this, right? We have to append B to it because in the following coming characters, we will be counting whether we are how many times B is appearing. I will directly append the count at the end of, or next to the B, right? Which is 2 here. Hmm. So this is how we're gonna do it because if we are not appending the character here, then we have to store B somewhere in any other variable. To keep that in mind, the current character which we are iterating is B, right? instead of doing taking extra variable and storing it in the variable, we'll directly append it to the character that character to the array string and keep on counting the numbers of characters that appears in the following array. So I hope you have understood part step one and step two and why we are using array as a string and storing uh, the output in a string format, right? So this is how we're gonna do it. Now step three, handle the last character of the group. Now what happens is that, for example, we have C at the end. We have some characters at the starting and we have the C at the end, right? I will come till here, right? We will have the count. That is great. Count, let it be X. And we know that in our previous understanding, when a new character comes up, we will also append that character after the count of the previous character, right? So we have to be relaxed here that we already have C in our string, just we don't have the count. Because when we are in the last loop and the array ends and we return the string directly, we will just get the previous value and the string as the output. We won't be attaching the count of the C to it, right? To do that, when the loop ends, we will append the count at the end of the string if and only if it is greater than 1. Otherwise, we won't be appending. We will just as we have only C at the end, and we will clear the cached array and replace it with the content with an array which is converting into the list. Now we return the length of the cache. So we will when we will be getting the array of string, we will convert into a array, fine, and return the output, right? So this is the approach. This is very simple and straightforward approach. Only the trick was to how to handle the compressed string, I would say, so that you could get a compressed list of answer. So there, in that case, we're just using the string as the variable to store the count and the characters. And one more tricky part was that appending the character just after the storing the previous character count. And third tricky thing was that after the end of the loop, we have to check whether the count is greater than 1 or not and append to the count to the array. Otherwise, we will just be returning the character of the end itself. Now let's move to the next slide. The code is exact copy of the approach discussed. Let's understand it line by line. We have a array string as we discussed. We will store the first character from the catch array to it. Then we will have n variable storing the length of the catch. We'll start I with 1 and count with 1. This is the important section while I is less than n. So we check first if I is within the index or not. If it is and character of I is equals to the previous index value, then we'll increase the count and I plus 1. We'll increment the I. Else if this condition false, that false or falsified. If the count is also not equals to 1, right? Then only we have to store the count or append the count and we'll reset the count to 1. If the count is not equal, we had the appended value itself in the previous part. So we will just append the next character to the string and we'll increment the I. And after the end, as I checked in the C, we last value of the character, we have the count of C, right? And value is appended to the string already. But to append the count after the value, we have to check if count is not equals to 1. If it is not, then append it, otherwise don't. We will clear the given array and convert the given string into an array and store it in the chars array itself again and return the length. Now this whole code takes O of n time complexity because we are just iterating n times or one time, which is of the length n. And say space complexity is O of 1 because we are not using any kind of data structures. Though we are using a string, but it is not counted as a space complexity as we need something to solve the problem. So now let's move to the next slide. Now since we have the understanding of the code, let's look at the dry run of the example. I've taken this example. Okay. Now let's begin. We have the first, now in array string. We start with appending the first character from the array, right? We appended A. Now I is 1 and count is 1, right? Again B. Now count is equals to 1 for A, right? So this falsifies our conditions and we come back to the else condition and we just append B, this condition. Since it is equals to 1, this gets false and we append this. Okay. Then B. If B again it is equals to the previous character. Again it is equal to the previous till end. Right. So we have the total count of B equals to 12 and I is at last index. If you can check, we have already stored B in our array string and this condition becomes true till the end, right? So this while loop ends and now we will gonna check this condition. If count is not equals to 1 or not. So we can say that it is not equals to 1. Instead the count is 12. So we will just append 12 to the string. We will clear this array. This complete array given to us would become empty and we'll convert this to an list and store it in chars, which will become A, B, 1 and 2 and we will return the count to be 4. So this is a very simple try run. I tried taking an easy example to make you understand. So if we take another example, uh, for example, if we take just A and B given, right? So first we will store A. We will check from here if the previous index is same or not. In this case, no, right? If it is not, we will come to the else case and we will check if the count is greater than 1 or not. That is also false. It is not. So we will just append B to array and we're done. But after the while loop, we will check after the while loop, we will check if count is not equals to 1. But here count is again equals to 1. So we'll just return AB as the answer. Okay. Now let's take another example. Let it be A, B, and B. Okay, output should be A2, B2. Fine. We initially stored A. Fine. Then if this condition, then we will check for this condition. This is true. So count becomes 2 and I comes here. Now the condition become false because these are not equal. So if then we will check if count is greater than 2, 1, it is. So we'll place count which is 2 here and we will append B after that. Right? Now I is here. I's previous element is same as the current element, so count becomes again 2. Okay, count becomes 2. After that, this is done, but the while loop ends because I reaches the last index. Now, after the while loop, we will check if count is greater than 1 or not, which is. So we will append 2 to it and convert this to an array of A, 2, B, 2 and return the length, which will be 4. So I hope you understood the dry run. I would request you, if you have not understood it properly, please watch the approach, intuition, and dry run again and try to solve one or two dry runs by yourself. And I will guarantee you will understand this problem. Now let's move to the next slide. Now, since you are familiar with the problem and solution, let's move to the lead code and code the solution. Okay, we'll create an array string of the length of the and the chars of 0 and length of chars. We'll take index I and place it to 1 and count variable to open. While I is less than n, we will check if I is less than n and chars of I equals to chars of I minus 1. We will just increment the count and i's values to the next index. Else, if we will check if count is greater than 1. If count is not equals to 1, right, or greater than 1, which means so we will append count to the array string by converting into a string and so setting the value to 1, and also we will append after outside the if condition the current character in which the I is pointing now. I, and will increment i's value again. Okay, and so that's that we'll just come out of the loop. If count is not equals to 1, we will append the last character count to the array string, clear the given array, then we will store the complete value, converting it to a string, and we will return the length of the, let's see. Okay, we have some, there is no test cases. Now let's submit the solution. Okay, we successfully submitted our solution. Now, code of the problem is available in my GitHub repository. You can find the link in the description. Thank you, everyone.